Good day. Thank you for tuning in to this general election candidate forum for Legislative District 35, position number 2. The forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCTV. The League, as you may know, is a nonprofit, nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. The League registers new voters, studies issues, and advocates for its positions with the legislature and at the state and national levels. Despite its name, the League is open to both men and women of voting age. My name is LWV with the League, and I will be moderating this forum. The candidates for Legislative District 35, Position 2 are Drew MacEwan and Tammey Newton. For this forum, the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, then I'll ask them questions in alternating order. The first person asked the question will have 2 minutes to respond, followed by 1 minute from the other candidate. There will be 1 minute closing statements for each candidate, and we'll begin the opening statements from the candidates, beginning with Mr. MacEwan.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Drew MacEwan. I'm running for re-election for District 35, Position 2 in the State House of Representatives. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve you these last 2 years, and I look forward to continuing to do that. I was born and raised in the Midwest. I came out here via the Navy in the early 90s and served on the submarines USS Nevada and USS Florida. When I was discharged from the Navy, I went in the investment field, and with some great timing, started my own firm a couple weeks before 9/11. And horrible timing, but it taught me a lot of lessons, and that is living the American dream and pulling up by the bootstraps and getting the job done and surviving. And I'm proud that our company is still in business 13 years later, and we just celebrated that anniversary a few weeks ago. As we look at what's going on in Washington State and across our nation, frankly, the solutions are before us, and we need to work together to find the answers, to get to where we need to be. And I think a lot of times we have in common what we already know to be the answers, but we disagree maybe on how we get there. I've had a great bipartisan track record these last 2 years, fighting for state government reforms to make it more efficient, for better jobs, a stronger economy, for quality education, and reforming departments like our Department of Transportation. I look forward to continuing to work on those, getting a vibrant economy to grow our state, get more jobs into this state, and that this state can be a leader in this nation. I look forward to continuing to represent the great people of the 35th District. I thank you for this opportunity and look forward to the questions tonight.
Okay, 2 minutes from Tammey Newton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank TCTV and the League of Women Voters very much for this opportunity to speak with you all. My name is Tammey Newton. I'm a first-time candidate running for state representative here in the 35th, Position 2. A little bit about me. I grew up in a small business household, and my parents still have the same family farm and same excavation business they had when I was 8 or 9 years old. I myself went into technology and was in the high-tech industry, working both domestically and internationally, and had a wonderful job of bringing diverse organizations together to create innovative market solutions. In 2002, the tech bubble burst, and I found myself on my unemployed and looking for other opportunities. And my husband and I, who was my fiance at the time, we made our way out to Mason County in the beautiful 35th. I had my own business for about 7 years and really enjoyed that, but found a passion in nonprofit and found there's a wonderful thing that happens when you bring business acumen and proven business practices to the nonprofit world. The reason I'm running for office is because the problems that we face really deserve the full focus of our attention, and I think we can do a better job of working together in Olympia and also looking to be innovative. And with my proven track record of bringing diverse groups of people together for the common goals and common good of the community, I look forward to an opportunity to do that in Olympia for the people of the 35th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to start with you again. So for the first question, Tammey, for the next session, do you support legislation that improves the mental health services to our state residents? And if so, what form would those improvements take?
I always support improvements, and I think that that's something that we can always do. You'll hear me talk a lot about performance auditing and overall improvements in lean processes. I think when it comes to mental health or behavioral health services, we do need to look at how we can better support our softer voices. And I say softer and not smallest voices because these are the folks that oftentimes are underrepresented because they don't have the means or the tools or the ability to necessarily represent themselves. As far as what that would look like, you know, I would have to look at what's on the table, and I would have to look at what's been proposed, and also look at innovative ways that we can partner and reach out and do more for those folks. So absolutely support improvements, and don't quite know yet what that would look like.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. MacEwan.
Thank you. So on mental health, this is a huge issue, and we see it again not only in this state but across the nation. And I'm a strong supporter. I think this is something that's we're looking for bipartisan solutions. I don't think either side disagrees that this is an issue that we need to put more attention on, more resources in. In my role as the assistant ranking member on the capital budget, we worked hard to increase mental health capacity in this state in our facilities, and including our prison system, where there are some tremendous issues there that if those go untreated, oftentimes those people are going to recommit. But outside of the prison system and with our with our general population in this state, we need to make sure that the services are there so that they can be everything that they want to be within this state. And I certainly support growing those resources. This is a challenge, and I don't think we have all the answers yet, but we need to continue to look for them and work towards them.
Okay, second question is for you, Mr. MacEwan. What's your position on replacing the I-5 bridge crossing between Vancouver and Portland?
So yeah, the Columbia River crossing is a big issue, and there's some diverse opinions both in Oregon, both in Washington, and also between the chambers and the parties on this. And the bridge, it's infrastructure is key, and we do need to probably look at a replacement for that. However, the issue that we're facing with the CRC is this mandate to have light rail. And in doing that, we're increasing the cost of replacing that bridge, and we're also taking businesses that are upstream on the Columbia River out of business because it's going to limit the amount of shipping that can go under that bridge. To have these types of mandates for services that aren't necessarily needed impinges those projects, and we're not able to get those done. So do we need to look at replacing the Columbia River Bridge? Absolutely, but we need to do it in an economic, feasible way that serves the businesses and the communities on both sides of the river there to make it happen.
Okay. How about you, Tammey?
Well, thank you. Great question. When it comes to the bridge, we do need to look at We need to look at maintaining our infrastructure in general. We need to look at having a transportation package in general. These are things that we need to be doing. And when we look at replacing bridges, I think it's important that we do look not just at existing business, but also where marketplaces are going. And so if we're looking at light rail, we have to be planning for the future. So it's a lot of times we see where we box ourselves in because we're planning for the now and not necessarily looking ahead. And so I think it's really important as we look to replace the bridge, and even though we need to understand any potential ramifications of the current decision, but we also need to think through any unintended consequences for not thinking big enough or far enough ahead. So when it comes to the bridge, absolutely, without a doubt, we need to have a plan in place. In fact, none of these things will last in perpetuity. We need to have plans in place for maintenance and replacement, and we need for them to grow with us.
Okay. So, third question. Tammey, I'll start with you. I would like for you to share your thoughts on the need for legislation to address the massive increase in rail transport of coal and oil, accompanied by the potential increases in hazardous spills, along with the danger to Washington's residents and to the environment. And that's a mouthful.
That is.
Happy to repeat it if you'd like.
I actually would like you to repeat that.
Well, both of you would appreciate that. So let me try to break that down just a little bit. I'd like for you to share with the folks, number one, do you see a need for legislation to address the increase in the oil and coal transport by rail, accompanied by the potential increases associated with that, and also the dangers in association to the residents and to the environment?
Okay. Well, as far as the need for legislation, I don't know the answer to that yet, and I think we have to take a look at that and see what those risks are, and there's going to be examples already out there in the marketplace in other states and other areas and other industries where we can take a solid look at that. I hate to box myself in with absolutely everything must have new legislation. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't be taking a very close look and making sure that we are addressing the safety and the concerns of our citizens, and also taking into consideration all of the potential unintended consequences of the increase in having these different loads moving through our area. We also have to take into consideration the economic benefits of these things, and we have to temper them and decide, is that economic benefit worth the potential risk? Can those risks be mitigated? So I'm not opposed, nor do I support. I would have to have more information in order to make a recommendation with regard to legislation for that.
Okay. Your turn.
All right. Thank you. So this is an issue that is huge in the state, and we're seeing it at Cherry Point. We're seeing it potentially in Grace Harbor and some other areas around the state. And at the end of the day, I think what are we tying this back to, and what is the opposition to this, and what are the proponents for? And the opposition is on numerous levels. It's the environmental concerns, and that if you have a train wreck, what does that impact locally? But also there's the environmental opposition to greenhouse gases and the burning of that coal and that gas. And a lot of this coal is designated to be shipped to China. So where do we fall on this? One, at the end of the day, local communities need to decide what kind of businesses they want to have in their economies, and so there's that aspect. And secondly, we have laws in the state, and we have an environmental process. And if we're going to be opposed as a state, then somebody needs to step forward and propose legislation to forbid this. But in the meantime, we have a process in place that needs to be followed. And subsequently to the greater environmental need, I'm all for clean energy and moving forward in that direction. But we can't, at the meantime, cut off what we're currently using. That devastation to this economy would be tremendous.
Okay, thank you. That was a hard one. I appreciate your time with it. So the next question is for you, Mr. MacEwan. Can the state fund basic education without gutting the budgets of all the other state services? And there's a sub-question to that. Do you favor raising tax revenue to fund state-mandated services?
So again, this is another big issue, obviously, and the McCleary decision by the Supreme Court a couple years ago, and we're continuing that process. We've made great strides towards more funding for education. Are we done? No, we're not. We also need to look at reforms so that our dollars are going into the classroom, and I think that in designating those for as much instruction as possible. But to the question itself and raising taxes to fund K-12, you look at our revenue, and it has increased each biennium for the last couple of biennium. We've invested a lot more into K-12. I think we're committed to doing that, and even in the supplemental budget this past year, we had great strides towards K-12 education. I believe the solution is truly going back to square one in the Constitution. It says that basic education is the paramount duty of the state. Well, we need to do that. And I've been a proponent. My first floor speech in 2013 was for a separate K-12 budget. We do that budget first, and then we take care of the operating budget. If we are truly going to be committed to making K-12 the paramount duty of the state, let's do it first, and let's remove the politics of the other parts of the budget. I'm going to continue to fight for that. There's strong movement in both chambers in the legislature right now to designate, there's various numbers, whether it's 2/3 or all or half of all new revenue growth to go directly into K-12, and I believe we need to have a sunset provision on that. I think there are ways that we can continue to put great strides towards funding K-12 education without asking the taxpayers for more money. And the sub-question, did I answer that?
Do you favor raising tax revenue?
Okay.
And it sounds
I've answered it.
Sounds like you answered it. Okay, Tammy, what would you like to respond to on that question? And
well,
I'm happy to repeat it if you'd like.
Please do, yes.
Okay. So for all of us, can the state fund basic education without gutting the budgets of other state services? And the sub-question is, do you favor raising tax revenue to fund state-mandated services?
Okay. Well, a couple things. I know that we hear the recommendation that we should be funding first or take 2/3 of new revenue, and one of the things I would like to say about that is that I think we need to be careful when we're talking about new revenue. We're seeing a recovery, and we do see forecasts, and we do see additional revenues coming in, but these revenues are really recovered revenue. They're not new revenue. The other thing is that, if we're looking to fund education, we've been cutting for so long. If I have a pie and I cut it into 6 pieces or 10 pieces, I still have a pie. It's still the same amount. So if you're going to transfer more funds to one area, you are going to be taking away funds from others. So it goes without saying that we would be hurting other services, and a lot of times those services are critical for the weakest in our population. As far as taxes, new revenue does not always have to mean new taxes. In the last budget the House put together, they closed 5 loopholes and were able to find $481 million. And those loopholes although 481 may seem like a small amount to the overall amount that we need to actually raise to cover McCleary, the bottom line is it's not budget dust. It is impactful. There are other ways to find these funds.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Ms. Newton, what's your position on full funding of state parks?
Well, you know, parks are, I think, critical, especially for the folks in our district and actually in our state who are not among the wealthy. Having our public park system owned by the public, we need to make sure that we are maintaining those. And we need to make sure that we're providing the services that are going to keep them accessible, keep them clean, keep them safe. As far as fully funding goes, you know, we always come back to this funding and should we? Absolutely, we should. Can we, and how do we get there? I think that's a different process and a different path. And that's why I say it's really important that we bring people with a fresh perspective and innovative ideas to the table, and that we're having true bipartisan conversations about how we can accomplish these things and get these things done. So,
okay, thank you. Mr. MacEwan?
Yeah, so the state parks, I think this is one of the tragedies out of the, excuse me, out of the economic downturn that our country faced, and subsequently in this state, of course, as well. And we saw a lot of cuts in parks. We also saw the elimination of the Tourism Bureau from our state, which I think, you know, economic or Business 101 says, and I think Tammey would probably agree, is that, you know, when you need to, when you're having a loss in customer base, that's when you really need to market. And we did the exact opposite, and we just eliminated our Tourism Bureau. So I think those two go hand in hand. Do I support fully funding the parks? Yes, I do, but at what cost to again, K-12 education? I think, again, K-12 is our priority. Through my work on the capital budget, we've done some great funding projects for our parks and increasing the infrastructure to make them more feasible for visitors, both in and out of state. But I also think we need to look at the bigger picture, and we've had a lot of land acquisitions in this state. And a lot of times, some of those properties that we've bought at great expense, we have not really put into use. And so I asked the question, do we need to look at those further acquisitions down the road, and are they necessary? Could we use that money to better serve what we already have?
Okay, very good. Last question.
Yes.
Now, you're going to get it. So, Mr. MacEwan, do you support Gun Registration Initiative 591 or 594, and why?
Yep, this is going to be a big one. We're, you know, in the, you know, brace yourself for the TV commercials from both sides on this over the next couple months. I oppose 594. It's, I think it's a horrible piece of, it's not legislation. It's a horrible initiative, and it's going to impinge on our Second Amendment rights, also on our state constitution rights. So I adamantly oppose that. I do support 591, which ironically is pretty much the reverse of 594. 594 is going to require that as a private owner of a firearm, if I even sold that to my son, assuming he can legally own one, or to my neighbor, that we've got to put ourselves through the background and the registration. This leads to the ultimate registration of firearms in our state, and I absolutely oppose that process. I've been a strong supporter of our Second Amendment rights in the legislature, and I'll continue to do so.
Thank you. Tammy, do you understand the question?
I do. Okay. Thank you. For 591, I don't support 591, and the reason I don't support 591 is because I do worry about it actually infringing on state rights. So we're basically saying that if we like the federal law better in this case, that is the way that we would go. And my concern with that is that if we do that in one area, we're opening the door to do that in pretty much every area, and I want to make sure that we maintain our state's rights. With 594, a little bit about me. I grew up in a hunting family, and I was taught gun safety the same way I was taught to change the oil and change the tire. So it's something that I have done. I enjoy shooting. I target shoot, and I have concerns with 594 because I too am worried that if my brother or my father were to exchange weapons, or that there is, or make a trade or something, that there could be a felon. They could be felons, and to me, that's a potential unintended consequence. So, do I think there's opportunity for improvement? Absolutely. Do I think that we need registration? Absolutely. However, I think that this particular initiative needs to be adjusted before we can move forward with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Both of you very, very much. I appreciate it. Now I'm going to give you both a minute for your closing statements to make the sale with those voters out there. So I'll start with you first.
All right, thank you, Eileen. Thank you so much, again, to TCTV and also to the League of Women Voters. It's so great to be here. To close, really the bottom line for me is that as a person who's worked in business, as a person who's worked in nonprofit, as a person who has had their own business, for me, when I look at the issues that are used as the political footballs to divide us and keep us apart, what's intriguing to me is that these are the very issues that would be used in business and in the nonprofit sector to bring people together. It would be the common ground that would bring us to the table to work together towards solutions and to innovate. And it's something, that is a skill set I have, that is something I love doing, and I would love nothing more than to work with the people of the District of the 35th, to work across the aisle, to work with our businesses, and to work within our government to make sure that we are working together to solve these problems. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Well, thank you. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for having this today. I appreciate this opportunity, and thank you, Tammy, also. Again, my name is Drew MacEwan. I'm asking for your vote for my re-election. These past 2 years, I have fought hard for reforming state government, for a strong economy, for a K-12 education, and I'm going to continue to do those things and in a bipartisan manner, and not looking at where are we in disagreement, but where do we agree, and let's get those items solved first. One of the bills that I'm very proud of that we did in the House that passed with over 90 votes was funding for K-3 classrooms, removing the local requirement. It was bonding our lottery revenue and taking that revenue to build new schools to meet the lower class size that we've demanded. That was bipartisan work that was done. We ran out of time to get it through the Senate, but it's doing things of that nature where we have that agreement that we can move forward. It's working for a strong economy so that people have the opportunity to have the jobs, to grow the businesses that they have. As a business owner, I recognize those risks that we face every day. And I want to make sure that we have a consistent and fair regulatory and tax environment so that we can have a strong job market. Again, I thank you for this opportunity, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you both very much for a very candid conversation and a very positive one. I appreciate it very much, and I know the viewers will as well. This brings us to the close of this forum. We thank you all so much for joining in. We particularly want to thank TCTV for their expertise and their technological excellence. We look forward to seeing you at the next forum, and until then, thank you very much from the League of Women Voters and TCTV. Goodbye.